Welcome to the Church Sound Podcast, part of the Repurpose Network, where kingdom culture, real life, and technology intersect. I'm your host, Prentice Thompson, and what we do, we talk to real people, pastors, leaders, engineers, tech people, manufacturers, worship leaders, all about church, technology, and provide solutions for a successful Sunday morning service. You ready? It's time to take a ride. Let's go. Yes. Welcome to another edition of the Church Sound Podcast. I am your humble host, Mr. Prentice Thompson, and you know, I love you. I love when you guys applaud. Even though my applause are homemade, and I made them myself in my own kitchen with my own pots and pans, somehow I make me feel good about me. How about that? And while you're here, why don't you do this? Why don't you like, subscribe, review, and share? Because we want to make sure that the information that you get, that you can bring it to someone else. Share it with your pastor. Share it with your music leader. And if you're a parishioner and you got problems with audio, share it with the audio guy in the back, because he's tired of you turning around looking at him. And if you send him something, maybe he can appreciate it, because we understand what that feels like. Send it to the musician. You know, if you're a tech guy, send it to the musician who's getting on your nerves. I'm just saying, it's out there. Hey, I'm just being an olive branch. I'm being a branch right now, a connector, which is why we have a great guest today. And I figured, what better way to talk about music and tech is to have a musician that understands music and tech. You know, how about having a really good, deep conversation about music, sound, and the Sunday experience? How about that? I have an incredible guest. He's an author. He's a musician. He's a consultant. Please welcome to the Church Sound Podcast, Mr. Alan C. Paul, God and Gigs.
Prentice, thank you so much for having me, man. I cannot wait to have this conversation.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing amazing, brother. I love the energy. I love everything about what you're bringing to your community. So I want to just be of service. Let's get at it.
Hey, listen, I found you on Instagram. I found you a while ago. Actually, I found you a while ago, and I was kind of in the middle of, because I had stopped doing the show in July, August last year,
Okay.
2024. And I was just burnt out. I was just burnt out with sometimes you can get caught up in the numbers game, meaning that I'm looking at how many downloads I get. And then I'll look and I'll see I got like 15 downloads from China. And I'll go, okay, I'll take it. I'll take those 50, because obviously something I said that God gave me touched them to be able to help them in their church. So that's how I looked at it. And then I got an email from a guy on LinkedIn. It was just a concerning email. He just said, hey, listen, I've been listening to your show and you haven't put up a show in a while. I want to make sure that you're okay. Are you okay? Is anything I can pray for? And sometimes you have no idea that your voice is an impact. You're completely blinded by it because you're isolated. We're isolated in our own, with our microphone, with our headphones on, and our own media feed and our own Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff. And we forget that people listen to you. It could be one person. If you could change that one person's life, that's more important than having a million people listen to you and don't apply anything that you say.
So true. So true.
So tell me, I know I was on my soapbox for a second.
Was good. It's a good box. We need to hear that. I needed to hear that. And so many people in this, again, it's not just a community of musicians or, like you said, pastors. Obviously that fits to the pastors, anyone that's sharing a word, right? Anyone that's sharing to help. But even the people who, like you said, who are in the pews, who can feel like they're forgotten, feel like nobody cares what they think or what they say. Like you said, Jesus, that's a very, very simple concept. Leave the 99 and go after the one, right? Mm-hmm. And that one is usually the one you don't think needs it. And so it's so true. We need this. I appreciate that, and you sharing that.
So where do you hail from, my man?
Well, okay. So first of all, I always start everything with these 4 words just so I can kind of get the context of it, because people are going to hear all this stuff. They're going to forget like 90% of it, so they got to remember something. So I always start with, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a creative, and I'm forgiven. Now, if you got those 4, then you know me, you're good. Now, as far as growing up, I actually was born in Philadelphia, man. My father was going to school up in University of Pennsylvania for dental school, and decided that my mom and him had decided to have me up in Philadelphia, but that was just for like 4 years. So I saw a little bit of snow, and then I was out. I don't remember anything. So my whole family is really Georgia, North Florida, Northwest Florida.
Gotcha.
So my mom's people are in Columbus, Georgia. My dad's people are in Defuniat Springs, Ponce de Leon, little towns you never heard of in Florida. So I grew up in Pensacola, Florida. That was my upbringing. Didn't come down here. I lived now in Miami, well, Broward, Fort Lauderdale area since '96. My first day of Miami was Hurricane Andrew. Figure that out. So I picked the worst time to show up in. Yeah, so I've been South Florida now for 30 years. This is now home.
Wow.
But yeah, started everything. Been a Florida boy pretty much my whole life. One side or the other, north or south. But yeah, been Florida pretty much the entire time.
Wow. So when did music enter your life?
Well, you could say just like that beginning stage in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. My mom says I was playing piano at 2 years old. Says I was reaching up trying to play the keys, trying to sing Sarah Smile. So that's where I got my start. She was a music teacher, still is playing at her church. She still can sight read way better than me.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got it, started with music. And so I have my favorite picture. The reason why I start with the whole family thing, husband and father, is because that's where I got my love of music, is from my family. My dad, like you, had a great record collection. So I remember flipping through his album vinyls of Commodores and Paul Simon and James Taylor and Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes.
Well, you
and
said
Earth,
James
Wind, and
Taylor.
Fire.
Like, you know something now.
See,
you're in my backyard now. You're in my backyard.
I'm telling you, I knew it. That's why I try to be careful, man, because we'll go in a whole other direction. But that's where it started. I grew up playing piano, classical, learned classical. Didn't get into gospel and anything like that really until almost 13, 14. So I went the opposite way. I went learning by ear at the end of the road. Well, I was learning by ear the whole time, but piano was always a part of it. It was basically piano, band, jazz band in high school. Then got a chance to go to Interlochen School, but this was the summer camp, and realized classical wasn't for me because all the kids on one side of the camp were all cool and playing jazz, and the other side they were playing classical and running me under the table. I'm like, I can't hang with those kids. Let me hang with these other kids playing jazz. And that was kind of like my introduction to jazz, kind of blue, Miles, and all that stuff. So yeah, my whole childhood was centered around piano, around music, around playing in my little church there in Pensacola, Florida, with the youth choir. No drums, nothing of that. Just me on keys, trying to figure out gospel, trying to figure out these Kurt Franklin songs. So yeah, that's how it all started, man. It all was around my family, church, and me learning the piano.
That's amazing. That's amazing. The reason why I contacted you is because I don't have a lot of musicians on the show, and usually the ones that I had Glenn Gibson on, I had who else did I had someone, I can't remember who else I had on, but I wanted someone who can really talk to the preparation and the mindset of a musician, because it's so important that the other departments, and when I say other departments, this is what I mean. I believe that the church has 3 departments. It's your pastoral team, anyone who speaks, anyone who gives an announcement, anyone who does anything speaking. Then you have your music ministry, anybody in the band, then you have your tech world. These 3 things need to work together.
Yeah.
And usually when there are issues, it's disconnect some way, in some sort of way. And a lot of it is because no one understands what the other person is going through.
True.
They don't understand. The reason why and I know I'm a good front of house engineer is because I was in the band. I grew up playing in church. I toured. I know how it should sound. I made records.
Yeah.
I know how to mix. But I don't walk around with the banner going like, I know everything, because you don't, right? Because we're all, you should be open-minded and learning. So that's why I ask, is because a lot of times people don't understand what the musician is going through to get the service, and the musician doesn't understand what the tech needs. So now you got two people with two different perspectives that want the same thing. They both want the same thing, but no one understands each other. It's better to be understood.
100%.
And if that lane isn't open, then what happens now? That comes out in worship. People would not think that, but it comes out in worship. So how do we bridge the divide? So I want this conversation to be solution-based. You dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I love it. And I love the fact that you started with, number one, the goals being the same. I mean, you just did it like the Trinity, right? Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Each branch of this organism, right? Organism, is the church, but it's also organization, has a goal of saving the lost, presenting the gospel, edifying, right? All those things of the ministry. And yet, like you said, there's so many times in my experience, let me just go straight to my experience, because we just talked a little bit before we hit record about when you have to be all three. When you have to be the sound guy. That was me. I had to be in my old church back in little 100 people, 150 people, right? Like we said earlier, most churches are not with the big sound teams and everything. Is usually just a piano, an organ, maybe drums. You got the choir, which is also, the ushers, which is also, the deacon board. Like, it's all the same.
Right.
So many of us have had to be both. Like you said, in your areas, you've had to be both. I had to be both. And just trying to figure out, okay, how do I support a preacher when I'm barely learning like the scriptures myself, when I'm barely understanding his world? I'm talking about when I was a teen, and I'm still trying to learn his music. And I got my mom behind me telling me, make sure you pay attention to so-and-so in the back who is going to hit, throw a shoe at you. You don't play the song right, So I've got all these competing things in my head trying to support this thing. And now you could take it one step further. Now what happens when you do have a staff? What happens when you do have a band? What happens when you do have a tech director, when you have a tech team?
Right.
Now you compile all those things, and all these other interests should be headed, like you said, toward the same thing. But I'm focusing currently right now on me. How do I handle all these competing interests and not lash out at the person that says you're playing too loud, or not lash out at the person that muted the guitar when the guitar came on, right? All these things are becoming internal battles. And then, like you said, I love the fact that you mentioned it. It affects the worship service, because the Bible says how blessed it is with brethren to dwell together in unity. Well, the opposite of unity is disunity, right? It is not harmony, it's discord. And that is impossible to hide. I'll give you one example. I hate to use this example because at least one of these gentlemen is still alive, but I will put the situation out there. It was a funeral that for a young man that used to play drums at my former church. Sad situation. The reason why it was sad was because he was the drummer and the bass player at the time. They were not feeling each other. They were going at each other. Oh, we're playing the song wrong. And they were and here I am, the keyboard is in the middle of this like brouhaha every week. I'm like, this is horrible. Well, like I said, unfortunately, the drummer passed away. It was a brain tumor he had. The reason he was losing his timing was because he was literally losing. Like, you could not mention a worse way to go than you are slowly realizing you're losing your skill. We didn't know it was a brain tumor. But do you know that at the end of that funeral, that drummer's family approached that bass player? When I tell you, it could have been New Jack City. Yeah, and we're talking Miami now. This is Miami. I just want to tell you, this is Miami. All the stories you heard are true. So this is just a small, really horrible example, tragic example of what happens when there isn't unity. They literally could have destroyed a family, destroyed a moment where we were supposed to be focused on ministry, and meanwhile people got beef and we're about to let it out in the most horrible way possible, because people didn't talk. Because even inside of music ministry, they didn't get on the same page. They didn't say, what can I do to help you? How can I
Mm-hmm.
help you? And like I said, go to the tech team, go to the music team, go to the worship team, go to any of these teams. If we are not checking ourselves and saying, how can I help you see things from your side?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to end up in those battles and those things where eventually, again, it shows up in the worship service and nobody's helped, especially not, again, the people who are actually serving, trying to do a good job.
Right, right, right. So let's look at it from my first point: the musician's mindset and preparation. So let's go hypothetical and real, because it is real. It's not hypothetical.
Gotcha.
Right? A musician is walking into a church service on a Sunday. You're walking into a church service on a Sunday. How do you mentally and musically prepare?
So I love this question because I can think right now of Sunday just passed. I'll go ahead and just set it up a little bit just so people can see my situation. And like you said, it's hypothetical, but it's also real. So in this situation, I have a 2-campus ministry. So we have 2 campuses. One campus I don't play at very often. That was the campus I had to play at last week. So even though it's part of my church, I don't usually go there.
Gotcha.
So already in my head, I'm thinking I need to be prepared as if they don't know my style. They don't know my leading. They've been working with another band almost every week or another MD almost every week. So the first part I have to take is the mindset of preparing as if I'm starting for the first time. It's kind of like what you just said about being a student. I can't start the service or start preparing for the service as if just because I've been playing for 20 years that I know exactly the way this is going to go. 4 songs, 4 breaks, reprise, we're done. Can't approach it that way. The second part is the preparation started Monday the week before. I have the blessing of, again, like the tech side, having to learn Ableton, having to learn stems, having to learn all this stuff. I was brought up just a piano guy, man. Like I just mentioned, jazz, classical, all just keys. None of this buttons, none of these MP3s or WAV files, none of that. I had to learn all that when I got into this position. So now I've spent Monday through Saturday thinking about what is the click? What's the transition going to feel like? What is going to be said at this moment when they go live that we're going to need more of a push from the band? How are we going to, so that part really gives me, again, the blessing of thinking of the musical service all the way through the week. We're talking about it in our staff meetings. We're talking about it with our music teams. Again, I'm talking about my specific situation, right? Not everybody has this. But we're talking about that moment last week didn't feel that great. Pastor didn't feel like you guys were supporting. How can we do this better? So my entire week is spent thinking, okay, how can we do this better? And again, add on this, I'm going into a different campus where I'm not used to it.
Right.
So then the third side of that is the actual morning. So I talked about, my mindset, then the preparation Monday through Saturday, working on the music, making sure that I'm not treating it like just because we played this song 100 times that I know it. And the third part is Sunday morning. And I said to the group, actually, we had this rehearsal beforehand because this campus is switching from 1 service to 2. So they had a big transition coming up. And I used the example of Joseph. Joseph was in, obviously, the Potter's house or the Potiphar's house, and then, all the Pharaoh's house. And I used this example because I was talking about the showing up on time and being faithful. I got there at the campus. The drummer was
I'm about to speak in tongues, sir.
Yeah, see, I had to go here. Sir. I have look, it's in my book too. The 3 P's of professionalism are preparation, presentation, and punctuality. Okay? So let me talk about that 3rd P for a second, because I can't prepare all week long and then not be prepared to show up to get ready for that very Sunday, right? So I get there 15 minutes early thinking I'm doing something. The drummer has been there 15 minutes before me. This is the other campus, so I don't work with him all the time. Not only was he there 30 minutes beforehand, he said, oh, by the way, just so you know, I'm sorry about, basically it was like apologizing to me. Just so you know, I don't have a car right now. I had to Uber over here. So the man that didn't have a car
gets there before you.
It was humbling, man. And that's the 3rd part. Like, I realized I've got to lead and show up that Sunday like I'm like, it's like they say, what's last in, first in, last out.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be that way as a musician. You got to be, I'm showing up now on Sunday morning, having done all the preparation through Sunday from Monday through Saturday, having thought through what really is going to be required, and then execute. Like Sunday is execution day. Like you have to have your mind in the right place in ministry, but it also has to be in terms of skill.
Mm-hmm.
Bible says play skillfully. I
Mm-hmm.
had to like, what's needed for this campus? Do I play loud or do I play soft? Do I need this chord or that chord? Do I go for it here or do I not go for it here?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about serving the ministry. So I hope that made sense, because I'm literally just walking through in my head what happened Sunday. And, that's every Sunday. You have to do something like that. You have to have the preparation. You got to get the presentation, but you also have to have the punctuality, because, one of those three missing, the whole table still falls down.
So let me ask you this. Take it out of your realm, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
How should a musician prepare for Sunday?
Okay, I think the first thing is, like I said, look to learn the music. Learn the music. That's the first thing. It's crazy that I have to say that.
No, it's not.
It's crazy that I have to say that.
It's not. Because listen, I played in church all my life until I became a front of house engineer.
Mm-hmm.
My son plays at multiple churches. He's a drummer. And I can't tell you how many times I'm like, did you listen to the music? When he was younger. Now I don't.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the music? And so many times they would listen to the music on the way to the church, right? Listen to the music on the way to the church because they think every Sunday is the same, and then they listen and it's got all these hits and stops and this and that, and you're like, huh, what?
So you know where that comes from? That's honestly why I mentioned the part about being faithful, because the Bible talks about being faithful with little. You know what I mean? Be blessed with much.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't be faithful with the one song, with learning how Sister So sings it, and being able to be adaptable and adjustable and learning, number one, how the music goes, because you can't really adjust if you don't know how the original was.
Right.
Because there's all these arrangements, right? But what's the original? What's the bass line the first time? What chords did he play before you did all the reharms? Right. So I do that again. That's why I mentioned the fact that I get to work with the original stems, and it gave me like this really cheat code where I'm listening 20, 30 times to the same track.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Track by track by track. Oh, this is what he did. Oh, I don't know if let's change this. Oh, that guitar line is this. So that's not common to use, that kind of the multi-tracks thing as like my chance to like really work on it, like piece it. But I need to know what the bass pattern is. I need to know what the hi-hat pattern is as an MD, right? I'm talking as an MD now, especially. I can't just know my part. Like you said, prepare. I got to know everybody else's part. And that's honestly for every musician. I would challenge every musician. If you don't know learn your part, and then know what everybody else is supposed to be playing, because your part is part of everybody else's part. The reason your part is your part is because his part is his part. And if you're playing over someone else, it's probably because you don't know his part, because you don't know that you're literally like messing him up. He or she is stuck because you moved into their lane.
Right. You're in the way.
Yeah, you're in the way. And the same thing could be said about accompanying a singer, right? I very much consider myself an accompanist first. I exist. I mean, this is a book that I haven't decided if I'm going to write yet, but I think I'm going to write it. I exist to be invisible and to make other people look good.
Dude, let me tell you something. Let me cut you off right now. Because that's been my mantra for the last 15 years.
Well, see?
That's been my mantra. My consulting company is called Invisible Media.
No way. Come on.
Because my job is to blend into the fabric of the environment. That I did a good job is when no one turns around.
Yes. When they,
you ain't got to say thank you, because I already know you said thank you.
I said this too. Actually, I said this on a secular environment, but it was still same deal. The lady was like, "You guys are so good. You guys are so good. I'm so sorry that everybody's not turning around and clapping for you." Blah blah blah. Dinner music thing, right? And I'm like, we're, so in my head, you could say, "Oh, I'm just one level above Spotify. Like they don't even know it's live." And I told her, I said, my job is to make sure that everyone loves their experience, but they can't define why. And it's because we, like you said, you prepare with the intention of, I'm going to elevate the experience, but I'm not going to draw the attention. Because once the attention is on you, you no longer elevated the experience, you've elevated yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just this line again of ministry in this whole thing, because we're talking to our church family, right? We're talking to those who should have the ultimate motive to bless God and then bless his people. And then you get the blessing on the end, right? For yourself.
Right.
But back to what you asked about preparation, man, I absolutely feel that I've become a better musician because I don't allow the mundane to become monotonous. It might be the same thing I played 6 times. People talk about CCM all the time. Oh, well, it's just 5, 1, 6, 4, 3. Well, like, you know what? I have found more ways to make 1, 6, 4, 5 sound good because I focus on it every week. And I don't need all these passing chords. Now, I can throw a passing chord in every once in a while because now I know why it works.
That's the key.
I know why I put it there. But
not because I can play it.
Not because I could play it. No,
Right.
Because now it's about this ebb and flow, this musical language you just talked about. Well, not everyone has the same musical language or worship language. And a church that has a certain musical language, you need to speak it and not let your language, your want to share all the stuff you can play. That's not part of the playbook for that Sunday. And so, yeah, I would say that's probably number one. I could probably stop there. I could go on forever about this. But there's one more part I would say as far as preparing. And since we're talking to our church audience, I really feel this is important. I've felt this for years and I don't say it enough. Learn the scriptures and focus behind the music you're playing. Do not just go in on Sunday and play the song like your song. If the song is quoting Revelation 3:20, at least know that. At least spend some time in the word. At least, I mean, this is the same thing as it's me going to Beyonce and playing a Beyonce song, having never listened to Destiny's Child, having never listened to Jay-Z, having never listened. I think I'm going to be able to go just play this song. I don't know anything about what's behind the song, what's behind Beyonce. I'm not going to survive on that stage because I don't know the culture and the ethos behind even the artist I'm playing. It's the same thing with playing worship music or church, whatever. If you're not in your word and know what the point is behind this song, you're not going to match it. It doesn't matter how much skill you put behind it. So you got to match your word and your scripture and actually studying the song and the lyrics of the song just because you know the chords is basically what I'm getting at. Singers, I'm not trying to point the finger, but y'all too. All right. Know the words beyond just what's on the screen. Right. And then have
or on your phone.
Or on your phone. Dig into it enough where it is a part of your mindset that even if nobody was there, you would sing that song just like it was because of audience of one, because you've matched your preparation spiritually and musically. That's hopefully that helps somebody out.
I often say this, especially with bands, and especially when you have the singers involved. You know, I huddle them up and I say, we got to prepare like God's not going to show up. We got to prepare like God's not going to show up, because I guarantee if we prepare like it's good, when he shows up, it'll be great. If we prepare like we're great, I guarantee it'll be exponential.
Yeah. And I love what you said there, because I think it's from I don't want to say flawed. It sounds very judgmental to say flawed. But when we say that word, God shows up, like, I think that's the struggle. That's the struggle. That's the problem. The problem is we think God showing up is the antidote to any preparation that we don't do. I just mentioned Joseph for a reason. God didn't give Joseph the dream just because he was the favorite. God already recognized his faithfulness. He was already faithful. That's what made him the target of opposition, was because he was showing up and doing the darn thing the way he was supposed to. And then everywhere he goes, he keeps getting blessed with more because he's faithful over that little bit that he gets, right? And so if we continually act like God's going to save us with his spirit, he's like, no, I don't honor that. I'm not going to honor the one guy that got the worst punishment was the one talent guy that hid it.
Yes.
Right? The parable of the talent. That's what we do when we wait on God. We're like, well, if he shows up, then he'll bless. Like, no. He is only blessing those that actually take what they have and use it more effectively.
Right.
And so yeah, the whole blaming God for, well, we didn't have church today. Like, you weren't ready.
Right.
And God would not waste his resources on something that's not ready. I hate to say it very strong like that. Right.
No, but
he would,
it's
yeah, he would not waste a Sunday or waste his spirit on you if you are already in an ineffective spirit. That's not the way he operates. So I feel like, again, my job as a worship musician is to give God something to work with. Give God something to work with. Be a good steward over that. And then, yes, obviously it's not by power, not by spirit, not by power, but by his spirit, saith the Lord, right? It is his spirit that does the real work. Like, it's not us. We
right.
can't go in here with a big head either. Like saying
Right.
like, we moved the crowd because we play like a shout chorus. Like, no.
No. God, you can play one note. One prepared note. Put it like that. One note that God says, right here, I need you to do a whole D down for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just do that. He can get more out of that.
Oh, yes.
Than you doing all your tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's understanding that God doesn't need you. He don't need you.
No. He has angels that can play rings around all of us, but
right.
he
doesn't need you, but he like your cooperation.
Exactly. Because
he gave you this gift. He like your cooperation.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the technical approach, because I've often asked musicians, what is the key factor for your success in worship, whatever instrument you're playing, for your audio to be great for you to minister?
This is a great question. The number one thing, if I had to just like pick one right away, it goes right back to, I'd say, awareness. I'm going to add awareness in both the visual and the auditory.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say my keyboard, for example, right? I play a Nord most times at service, right? If I'm not aware of what that board can do, of where my wheel is, of where my settings are, of how much my filter fade is here, what's my balance on my drone. Like, if I'm not aware, tech guy can't help me. He cannot help me. If I'm droning out at which has happened, like I've forgotten, right? I had the pastor come down and say, whatever the sound people did, don't do that ever again. And we were like, what? And I realized that I had my padlock, and it was just rumble. Didn't realize it, right? That was
Dude,
not on
that
the
happened to me. That happened to me last Sunday mix in front of the house.
Oh no.
Dude, I'm looking at the keyboard player. I'm looking at him, he's comfortable, and I'm like, what is he playing? And I'm looking out at the console, and I'm like, oh, let me just solo this. And he had the tracks still in the same key. Like, he didn't end it.
Oh gosh.
So he's playing. I'm like, but the pads aren't moving. Like he's on a fourth and it's still on route.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I bring it down. But it's that technical, like you're talking about, it's our awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't know.
Yes.
But it's not my job to throw him under the bus. It's my job to say, hey man, next service, da 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 da. Oh, yep. I didn't know. Great.
And that's communication. That's the next part, which is that you have the awareness, but then you have to be able to communicate what you're aware of. So perfect in-ears, right? Another thing that like we've all gotten accustomed to. A lot of our team are not professionals. They're 9-to-5ers. They're showing up on Sunday. They don't know what a good in-ear mix sounds like. So our team, thank God we have an amazing technical director. A guy like you, really, I can see right now, like you and John would get around, would be great friends.
Hey, call him. I like to have him on the show. I like to have his perspective as well.
We need to get John on there. John sat down with the whole team and said, here's what you need to listen for. Here's why you need the MD. Your click could be here. We're stereo. When we do the sound check, here's what to ask for. Because again, they're like, just like, it's good, but they don't know it's not good because they can't communicate what they really need. They don't know what
good is. They don't know what good is.
So we sat down and we just said, hey, when you do a sound check, this is what you should look for. If you don't have this, ask for this. Don't be mad. Don't be mad. Don't be embarrassed to keep asking. Because I think a lot of us, in terms of sound checks and even musicians, we're like, oh, we don't want to say anything, right? So then we accept something that ends up damaging the service because we don't want to mess with it and tell the engineer 3 or 4 times, nah, change it, nah, it's not right. And we feel like we're going to bug them. Now, I can understand being like a diva. That's different, right? But if it's something that's really like you can't figure it out, do like what you just said. Can you help me figure out why I keep hearing blank? And then they might say, yeah, you got your ears reversed. Or yeah, you got this too low. Yeah, you got this. Let me hear it. And you'll come and actually, and most people I've found, again, in the tech world are so gracious. They know, because y'all are in this world, y'all know that we don't know this terminology.
Right.
So if you just say, hey, I'm aware of a problem,
but I don't know how to explain it.
I don't know how to express it. So that part is 100%. Like, that has done wonders for our team. Trust. It has done wonders for our team that we no longer feel this fear of saying, I don't know what's wrong. Right. So that part is another part. And yeah, I think those two together, honestly, I would just stop there, because awareness obviously then goes to the actual playing, like when something's wrong, right? When I'm actually seeing, oh, drums, wait, something's crackling, da 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 da. Let me quickly tell the sound team, I think the mic got too close, you know, or figure out something that I'm aware of that I messed up, you know what I mean? Or telling the team something, hey, vocals sound a little off, or can all y'all hear each other, you know, or y'all with click. All these things are communication and awareness, because then it goes to the technical and we can fix it. Now, if it's a musical problem, it's my job. I got to fix that.
Right.
But if it's something that I can go to tech and say, hey, we were aware of it and we're not going to just sit on it or blame y'all, right? We're actually going to take steps to fix it for the next service.
I think it's you know, probably the next part of my question is really just kind of what you said, the relationship between musician and engineers. Dude, I can't tell you, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to this as well, how many times the church has called me in to do a consultation, right? I can check the box every time. Every church. This has never not happened. Let's put it like this. This has never not happened. I get to the church, and when I come into a church, I don't want to come in on Sunday. I want to come in on rehearsal. So I'll tell the pastor, hey, listen, if your rehearsal's on Thursday, I'll come in on Thursday, because I'd rather see how they act when you ain't around. I'd rather see how the MD and the engineer, how they talk to each other. I'd rather see what singer has what. I really want to understand tone of the service, because if you're calling me and you say, hey, listen, I want you to mix, I can mix blind, yeah, sure. But I'd rather be of service to you than be a service to you. You understand what I'm saying?
100%.
So I'll come in on a Thursday, right? And I'll say, listen, don't tell nobody who I am. Don't tell nobody he's here. This is the guy that pastor brought in to da-da-da-da, because I already know that the head, this has happened. They didn't tell the engineer nothing. The engineer don't know I'm coming. The pastor know, and the pastor team, I know I'm coming. So I get there, the engineer's like, who are you? Your pastor, so pastor sent you to do. So now all of a sudden, we got this going on immediately. Now, if there's any discord between the musician and the engineer, I guarantee the engineer's gonna come to me and go like, I bet you ain't never seen nothing like this before. You know, somebody's gonna say it to me. Yeah, that's the line. Either the tech's gonna say it, or the musician's gonna say it, or or one of the pastoral people gonna say, "Man, you know, that's why we called you in here, man. I bet you." I said, "No, last week, no, yesterday. This happens all the time." But I think the key thing that you've illustrated is that you have a tech person who understands that I have lay people on the team.
Yes.
Right? I need to teach them how to communicate technically to me so I can help them creatively. See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And me being on tour and doing all that stuff, I understand what you need on stage, because I was you. Yep. You don't know that, but I was you. So any church that say I mixed at a church and they call me back to mix again, the first place I go is to the stage. I don't even go to the concert. I go and I shake everybody's hand.
That's awesome.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Oh, what you got a 4-string, 5-string? What you got? Oh, dude. He said, yo, man, you gonna make it bump. Oh, it's gonna be bumping. Yeah. What you got? Oh, man. They changed the kick drum, mic? Yeah. I'm making sure that you comfortable. The singers, I'm making sure, I'm asking, hey, what do you need? What do you need? I'm listening for voice texture. I'm listening for what type of soprano is this? What type of alto is this? What type of tenor is this? I'm listening for these things that's going to make everything sound better. What I found is that when the creative person trusts the technical person, they're not thinking no more. They're just ministering. Because know why? Because they trust me. I know P got me. If anybody I know that got me, it's him. I can tell if I mix there more than 3 times, I can tell who she hoarse. Okay, this soprano is a very harsh sounding soprano, right? She has a real bite at 2K. This other one is really smooth. I'm gonna push her up because for this song, this type of soprano fits this type of alto, this type of tenor. This tenor has more of a presence, and I need to have him because his diction is better. Let me push him up so people can hear the words. That's relational.
Yes.
That's all understanding. Because I look at it this way. If I'm in the audience, I want to hear what I see.
Exactly. Yes.
I want to hear what I see. I want to make sure that people are heard. I want to make sure that whoever's up there and I'm controlling it, I want to make sure that it's ministry, 1.
Yeah.
And 2, that you're comfortable to minister. That you're not even thinking about it. Any MD that I work with, I always tell them when I start, I say, listen, my job right now is to make sure that you ain't worried about nothing. You ain't got to worry. If you see me, you ain't got to worry about nothing because I have more questions. What do you need? How can I serve you? What do you need from me? How can I help you? I see this person. They ask me. That's communication.
100%.
When we do that, guess what happens? Worship goes from here to here because all you're doing is ministering.
Yeah.
I'm ministering because you're allowing me to minister. You're allowing me to use everything I have in front of me as an engineer to paint sonically. I can paint sonically now because you're giving me everything you have. And I'm giving you everything I have. And we're giving God everything he needs from us so that we can, because every button, every switch, every fader that we use, every cable is used to bring souls to the kingdom.
Amen.
That's it.
Yeah, brother. Okay, you could like just take that entire portion right there and just throw it on there, and please put it on every worship team and tech teams website to listen to. Because your heart, I got to go back to one word you mentioned, that it's the heart of my current ministry. It's what our whole vision or mission statement is. It's relationship. And you mentioned relational. The Bible talks so clearly about every piece being a part of the body, right? The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you. The foot cannot say to the, you know what I mean? Like, these are all biblical concepts that for some reason, when it comes to mics and keyboards and guitars, we think they don't apply anymore. You be a Christian on stage as well. Be a Christian behind the console as well. Like, these rules still apply. You still have to treat each other, esteem each other above yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's still a principle that you're following as a worship team member, whether you're tech or whether you're creative or whether you're music. What I love that you said is that you actually make time for these people to see you as more than just someone to make something happen, more as just a tool, more than just, and the same thing happens, by the way, on the side of musicians, where people
definitely.
just see us as, well, he's just a piano player, just a worship leader, instead of seeing a person. When you see a person and you treat a person like a person, you get all of the person that he is or she is. And when they minister, they're ministering out of that overflow of feeling comfortable with the people, because we're ministering to people, to a loving God, but we're ministering through and to people, right? And that's where, if we don't remember that that is the most important part, the relationships that we build, not throwing people under the bus, not you missed the fader, not you had me muted, but I want to serve you, because that was all I heard in your phrasing, man, was serve, 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 ministry, serve. And so now those technical things, now they fit in the right place. They never get elevated above the person, because we're always seeing the purpose of that equipment, the purpose of this chord, the purpose of this sound check is the people. And we're always making the people the main thing, and starting with the people that we're serving with. Because we can't even serve outside if we don't serve the people that we're serving with. You know what I mean? And then that's the pastors. Let's not even get into the whole pastors. Why there's so much rift and bumping heads between pastors and worship ministries and tech. It's because we can't serve the pastor, because we can't serve each other. Now the pastor's catching that, right? And no matter what your service, a servant of God or a man or a woman of God is, you're still called to honor them, right? So that's let's not even go. That's a whole nother podcast, right?
Right.
So this is the part I think that the death of the ego, the death of I'm here just to serve my own needs because I'm on a worship team or because I'm on a tech team and because my way is the highway, that does not fly and will always lead to a loss of unity, a loss of respect, a loss of musical quality, a loss of precision, and eventually, like you said, a loss of an opportunity to advance the kingdom of God. It's that deep. And I love that you come in on the rehearsals, because like you said, that's where you find out. I'll tell you right now, in our ministry right now, I'm sure my worship leader would not mind me saying this because we're all on the same page. Like, I go back to the punctuality thing. People are coming from wherever they're coming from work, school, like I mentioned, my man, coming in the Uber, they ain't got time to waste. We come into rehearsal, we said 7:30, the prayer is done at 7:32, and we are into our rehearsal. We've made that commitment to ourselves. I've been accountable for being late and not showing up with that mentality of like, people's time is valuable, so we can catch all these things, so we can have the time to to be relational and to talk and relax and not feel like we're just oh, it's almost 7:45 and we haven't even started yet. You know what I mean? And people get that little resentment in the back of their head. But why am I here? And now when there is a problem, you're like, well, if you were here at 7:30, we would have already fixed this problem. So I have to go back to that, because even being relational is respecting people's time and respecting their knowledge.
Yes.
And respecting that, hey, we're here for a purpose, and I'm going to be as effective as I can while you're here. Because we do only have 2 hours on Sunday and maybe an hour and a half of rehearsal. That's all we get. And so I got to treat this time. And I love, like you said, you treated these people while they were in front of you with the respect, even if you're not part of their ministry. And so that part, I hope is, again, I hope that's, I know it's the heart of this podcast, because clearly you're reaching, but I hope the people who are listening are thinking of, what can I do next Sunday that will build and foster more of this kind of relationship that will eventually lead to excellence?
Right.
Because if you can't have the excellence unless you first sow and invest into the people. And then once you sow into the people, then you can actually build the skills with those people. Because like you said, now they trust you. Now they trust you. Now when I say out loud, because I'm keys. So obviously I know all the parts, but the singers, I try not to step on their toes. Every once in a while, I'll be like, hey, why don't you try here? But that's because I don't step on their toes all the time.
And then you have a relationship.
Exactly.
See, that's the difference. You can say things to people if they know your heart.
Exactly. It's not about correcting or trying to be, higher than you, or I'm the boss, I'm the director, I'm the tech director. I know better. It's always, again, come under, humble yourselves, and he will assault you in due time. That's it, man. I love it.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do this again.
I mean, look, I don't even know. Like, time is like, I don't even know how long we've been on, because this literally is my heartbeat. Like I said, it's so good that, and we mentioned this, and I'll give another like behind the scenes for people. You probably don't want to know, but we talked so much before we recorded about these other areas of our lives, and it doesn't feel like they fit, but they do, because this is your heartbeat and my heartbeat, and it's so much more than what happens on Sundays. That's what I think we're getting at. This is so much more about people skills than it is about musical skills or technical skills.
Mhm.
Musicians, I'm talking to all of us. I'll never forget the quote that Herbie Hancock said to somebody when he said, "How did you develop your touch?" Herbie Hancock said back to that guy, Herbie Hancock said to that guy, "Develop your life." If you would develop your life, you'll develop a better musical skill. So that's what we're talking about. These are life skills and spiritual skills that then you apply to your music, and that you apply to Sunday, that you apply to Tuesday night, that you apply to Bible study, that you
Right.
apply to rehearsal.
Right.
And then seek the first kingdom of God and all these things, all these musical, technical things will be added. But we got to start with where you started. So yeah, I know you sign me up, you tell me when, and we'll continue this conversation for sure, because I know we could go on and on.
Hey, listen, those of you who are my listeners, this is what I want you to do. Before we get out of here, I want you to like, subscribe, review, and share, and tell the people how they get you, man.
Oh gosh. Okay. So again, this is such a beautiful collaboration. I hope this will continue. So first, make sure if you're listening for the first time and you're from the God and Gifts community, please subscribe to the Church Sound Podcast right now. You can hear that we are brothers from another mother. This is exactly where we are. We are right at the intersection between arts and entertainment and ministry. So this podcast, we're talking the same language. So please subscribe to this one. Now, after you subscribe to this podcast, you can find God and Gigs anywhere on all podcast networks at God and Gigs. G-O-D, one God. I always don't know why people mess that up. Don't put gods, because that's not what we're about here. We're talking about one God, all right? So G-O-D, A-N-D, G-I-G-S, God and Gigs. You can go to godandgigs.com/podcast. That will take you to the website. All the players are there. Over 300 episodes we have there with guys that you know their names. Like I know with Princess, we go down the list of all the names of the guys that we respect that have been on everybody's stage playing, for people from Shirley Caesar to Aretha Franklin to Tasha, to everybody. Like these are the people that we respect, and I've been blessed to have them on my show, as well as Emmy winners, Grammy winners, your local musician who's making a great living doing what they love without necessarily going on tour. These are the stories that we're telling at God and Gigs, so they can become the creatives that God created them to be. So that's where they can find me, and AlanCPaul for anything else on the other side.
Amazing, amazing. Hey, listen, first of all, thank you for answering your Instagram, because a lot of people don't answer the Instagram.
No, look, I am not big enough to be like, oh, I mean, now if you got a big old spam thing behind your name, then yeah, I will delete you.
Hey.
But no, man, I appreciate so much this community. Social media should be social, and community should be community. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to serve and to help as much as I can, as long as God gives me breath. That I'm going to be there to try to help our community in any way I can.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, so all of my avid listeners, y'all know what's about to happen. We do this game called 30 Seconds and Gone.
Okay.
5 questions, yes, no, true, false, any way you want to do it.
Oh, boy.
There we have it. 30 Seconds and Gone. With my brother. Question number 1. What was the first keyboard you bought with your own money?
My own money? Ooh, you had to throw that one in. I'm still going to go with, I think it was part of my money, in Sonic SQ.
Okay. Number 2, one gotta go. Nord, Korg, Roland, Yamaha.
Korg, sorry.
Number 3, favorite cereal as a kid.
As a kid, this is going to make me look so old. I still like Razor Brand, man. I'm sorry. I'm going to own it.
Razor Brand?
You expect this a Lucky Charms? Nah, man. I'm Raisins all the way, man. I'm still a Raisin Brand, man.
Question number 4. What sneakers do you love most? Nikes, Adidas, whatever brand.
I'm not a sneakerhead. I'm gonna say Nike, just because I got a couple of nice Jordans the other day that I should wear more. So I'm gonna say Nike, but I'm not a sneaker guy.
Okay, question
Final
number
answer.
4. If you had to pick 2 keyboards to play on any church on any given Sunday, what would they be?
Any 2 keyboards?
Yes.
Different brands?
Any brand you want.
I'm gonna go old school again, man. I'm gonna stick with the Nord, and then I'm gonna go with my Yamaha either Montage or MX series.
There we have it. 30 seconds and gone, my brother Alan C. Paul. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time, my man. And like we always say, keep God first in everything you do. See you next time on the Church Sound Podcast.